and welcome to the Formidable Over 40 podcast. I'm Sarah Pittendrig, a mum, award-winning entrepreneur, cancer survivor, mentor, and coach. In Series 2 of the podcast, we're sharing new stories along with the ethos that you are never too old and it's never too late to design a life you love. This episode features Bianca Robinson. Bianca runs the national charity CEO Sleep Out. CEO Sleep Out call on business leaders, business owners, and senior executives to spend a night under the stars to unite to fight homelessness and poverty across the UK. As a result of this, countless lives have been changed. More than 5,000 executives have raised over £3 million, which has been donated to over 100 charities. Over her career, Bianca has held many roles, including in graphic design, sales, lecturing, marketing, and public speaking. Born in New Zealand, Bianca's journey has taken her to the north of England, where she now leads her mission to challenge leaders to use their power to create greater social impact. Bianca's work is truly impactful, and I'm excited to hear more about it on this episode of the Formidable Over 40 podcast. So before we do, please can I ask you to rate and subscribe to the Formidable Over 40 podcast so I can keep sharing more inspirational stories like this. So, hi Bianca, I am so happy to have you on the Formidable Over 40 podcast.
Oh, me too. I've been following your activity for a wee while now, Sarah. And yeah, just great what you do. Been listening to the podcasts. I'm finding quite inspirational stories on there too. So yeah, really cool to be here.
I've given a little bit of an introduction there to you for the listeners and anyone watching on YouTube. But would you share a little more about who you are and what you do for anyone who, as I say, is listening and watching?
Yes, of course. So you mentioned there that I'm a New Zealander, and I think people can definitely pick up a Kiwi twang when I talk. And somehow I've washed up on the beach here in Saltburn by the sea in the little old Victorian town in the north of England. And I do what I do, running the CEO Sleep Out charity and my other pet projects from my box room in the north of England. And I'm building that national brand from here. But yes, I sort of arrived here chasing a man, not chasing a man. I was married to from this neck of the woods. We had met in Edinburgh. 5 weeks after meeting, we did realise that I was pregnant with twins. And at that point, I was like, I need my mum. I need my family support. So we went back to New Zealand. But what I found was that people here from the Northeast, they are very, very family oriented. They really are close knit. And Greg just was so homesick, and he said, please, can we go home? And he kind of said to me, he said, we can get 100% mortgage. Oh, okay. That's kind of sealed the deal for me. So off we came back here. And I thought, you know, actually, this is a really lovely place to live and raise my kids, and they're 20 years old now. Yeah,
no, that's absolutely fantastic. What a wonderful story. But 5 weeks and then pregnant with twins. I mean, goodness gracious me.
I don't think.
How on earth did you? I mean, you must have been absolutely just shocked to the core with that one.
Yeah. It's a feeling when I was told that it was twins, it was at 5 weeks. I had an ultrasound because I was so sick. But they said, oh, yeah, I can definitely see 2 heartbeats. I was thinking, my baby got 2 hearts.
It hadn't even resonated that you might be having 2 babies.
I said, no, you're having 2. I was like, you laugh and cry, and you know, it is a very strange feeling. It's terrifying, but also a little bit exciting. And I really wasn't ready for it. We had, you know, it was definitely unplanned, but actually realized that this is a big task. You've got to step up to it.
Yeah.
Of course, that's what we tried to do, and we've co-parented very, very successfully. We've been separated since 2005, but co-parented here in Saltburn. We thought that's what best for the girls growing up is have both their parents. I could have taken them back to New Zealand, Sarah, But I'd say
yes,
because Greg had such great qualities as a dad, and I thought, we've got to dig in, and I've got to sort of, at the time I was thinking of it as I'm going to make a sacrifice, but actually now 1 years later in Saltburn, think I haven't made a sacrifice at all. It's been a great place to grow them up. It's been a real community feel. It takes a bit, I think that they've been raised by the village.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
So yeah.
And that's the thing, isn't it? That it's interesting. I've got a lot of my clients and coming to me saying how lonely they are at the moment. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because that community that you're talking about there, it takes, what is it they say? It takes a village to raise a, what there's a saying, isn't it? Something like it takes a village to raise a family or something like that. And it is true, isn't it? That, if you can be in that community, gosh, especially with what we've just gone through, over the last few years with the pandemic and everything. And I think, all this working it from home and so forth, and people who haven't got the benefit of that community are really feeling isolated and quite lonely now.
It really got me through pandemic time, through real serious illness. You realize who your friends are, and they were there like to cradle me and get me through, and it made it all the easiasier that all your friends were in kind of a quarter of a mile radius. We call it the halls of residence, because you can go on one street and knock on your best friend's have a cup of tea.
Oh, it's fantastic, isn't it? You can't put a price on that, can you? You can't put a price on that. And this podcast, Formidable Over 40, the ethos behind that is for people who maybe do feel stuck and maybe a bit isolated and lonely, and at that midlife crossroads where they maybe don't have anybody who they can talk to. And I think when you're a female founder or a woman in business, who's sort of in that senior management position, it's often feared to speak up and speak out about how you feel, for the fear of losing the authority that you've built up through the decades. And there's a lot of people relying on you. And if you're the breadwinner or the strong one in your home, you don't really necessarily have anybody who's actually listening or who understands. And in business, you really can't be sharing how you feel with the people who are working for you and with you, because you don't want to be rocking that ship, and they're relying on you. So you've got a lot of weight on your shoulders. So this podcast is all about anyone who's feeling stuck and needs to be inspired. Yeah. It's to show them that, you can break through, you can overcome challenges. You're never too old. It's never too late to design a life you love. So I called it Formidable Over 40. Some people say, oh, that sounds too sort of frightening. It's like a fearful sort of this formidable creature. But I'm not saying it like that. I'm saying being formidable means that you can just make it happen. Get out there, make it happen. You're not just a someone's, you're a someone. Yeah. What does Formidable Over 40 mean to you when you think of being formidable over 40?
Well, I absolutely love the phrase. I think it's brilliant. I think to me it speaks to owning who you are. I was going to say owning your shit, Sarah. So let's say it. Owning your shit.
Absolutely. Owning your shit. Absolutely say it.
Owning who you are, and accepting that real self-acceptance. It's not caring what other people think about you or what you're doing anymore. Just doing it. Suddenly you get to the point where you look back at your journey, and I think people think it's just success is that, she's gone on that,
straight line.
And at some parts of it, it's a knockdown.
Yeah.
Or it's a kind of a side swipe, or you get taken off an off ramp onto another journey altogether, and that is that's the rich tapestry of your life, isn't it? And that creates and builds. I think there's a huge thing about, by the time you hit over 40, you've had enough experience, you've had enough experiences in the bank to know that you can overcome.
Yes.
You know that if you hit one of life's curveballs, and that leads to what we all fear, which is a failure, but actually life ticks on. You get up, you pull your socks up, you pull your trousers up, you get big girl pants back on, and off you go again. You just go again. Otherwise, what else do you do?
What's the alternative?
what's the alternative? And we've all got that in us. And I think there's this big looming fear that we have of the word failure because it's humiliating. It's crushing. It's, my God, it didn't work out. What in the world? What can I possibly do? But once you get over that hump and you've actually gone through some of the deep shit, come out the other side, you realize, okay, I've got a resilience here. I've got a bit of a strength here, and I'm actually resourceful. I can actually turn that into something new. And I say to my girls, they get unsolicited life coaching from me all the time.
Yes, I know the feeling. So does my son. It's like Yawnsville.
And I say, listen, pain is where the growth is. If you're wrapping yourself up in cotton wool all the time to avoid potential rejection or humiliation or embarrassment or pain, you're going to grow. And life begins at the end of your comfort zone.
So it does. Yeah.
Yes, I've been there. I've done that. I have had, numerous things that haven't worked out the way I would have, hoped to. But here I still am trudging on, and that's cool. That's okay. I've got a bit more. My skin's a little bit thicker. But But it gives you the empathy to kind of support others if they're going through something as well, because you've been there and the living testimony by this age.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's true. And I think the thing about failure, so many people really do fear failure. But like you very well said there, life does start at the end of your comfort zone. And I think that failure can really shape you. And I say to people who tell me, but I'm really scared of failing. And I say, well, if you do, it's think of all the lessons that you've learned. And those lessons are what's going to shape you and take you forward. And I think failure is such an awful word. And I take it back to school. And if you think about it, let's use this as an example. You go to school and you can't read and you can't write. So by the time you've started doing your spellings, you might have got, I don't know, say you had to have 9 out of 10 to pass. So you get 8 out of 10 and you're told you failed. You failed that exam. But the point was, when you started, you couldn't spell. So you got 8 right. So you didn't really fail. You didn't fail. You actually were 8 spellings ahead of where you were when you started. And I think this is where the problem is. It's about how you reframe this word. You failed your driving test. Well, you couldn't drive a bloody car before you sat your test. But you can drive your car now. It's just there are certain elements that you need to improve upon. You didn't fail the bloody spelling test. You got 8 right, but there were a couple you got wrong. And it's this, isn't it? It's about reframing failure. It really drives me insane. I hate the bloody word because you've learned so much. You haven't failed. Do you see where I'm coming from, though? It's true, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. And I think, there are times when things won't go as you had hoped. And so once you've done that, okay, well this is the pitfall. I'm not going to go. This is what I'm going to do to mitigate that. I'm going to try a bit harder. I'm going to cover my bases more. I'm going to do a bit more research. I'm going to, but it makes you sharper. It hones you.
Yeah, it really does. I am someone who has got the bloody T-shirt on failure. Jesus. I mean, I have made some real big cock-ups in my time, but I would like to think that's got me to where I am today. And I'm quite pleased with where I am today. So, we've just got to take it on the chin and move on, learn from the lesson. So in terms of, we talk about Formidable Over 40 and what these fabulous women are and these opportunities that are there for us. But if we go back to say when you were 15, what were you doing when you were 15? What were your hopes? What were your aspirations? What were your dreams back when you were 15?
I did not have a clue. I knew I was good at art. My dad was an advertising man. So I liked that idea of going into the advertising world. But do you know what? I was so gormless. Grew too tall too fast. I was bony. I was freckly. I was pale. I had one ear that stuck out. I really did. I've had it pinned back.
Yourself.
I mean, I was chinless. So I had all the dentistry work and stuff. You wouldn't believe. So by the time I hit 15, I was sort of just coming. I thought, okay, I've had my orthodontistry now. I can face the world. But my dad could see that I lacked real confidence and elegance and grace. I didn't have any of that. I was gormless. I was really, really awkward in my own skin. And
right.
Shy. I wasn't confident. I could put a front on with my friends, but in the world, like I couldn't pick up the phone and phone somebody I didn't know even. It was like real dread. That's a product of my upbringing and stuff as well, and the family dynamics that we had. But yeah, so he decided, I'm going to just sign her up for one of these modeling courses.
Yeah,
and I had never wanted to be a model or anything like that, but I think he thought, well, it's deportment, it'll give her confidence, it'll give her a sense of style or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he chucked me into this course, and, I was absolutely mortified. I had the dread. I didn't sleep the night before it started. I went and my hands were being sweaty, and I remember sitting there and actually wiping them on my trousers, and the person who was taking it was like, never wipe your hands on your trousers. That's the first lesson I learned when I went there. And it was all these glamorous women, old teenagers learning to be models, and here was me. It was horrendous. Anyway, by the end of it, I did actually get put on the books, Sarah.
Amazing.
I haven't figured out why, but the photos came out okay. So there was something to go on. And as it went on over about the next 5 or 6 years, I did that as well as going to school and then uni and stuff, and made some money. But I ended up with an agency where they went bust, and I lost a lot of money in that process. It was about 10 grand. And I just lost confidence again. I lost heart. Lost the will to kind of pursue that. It was that rejection. I just hated every minute of it. So anyway, I went overseas to America after I'd got my degree, and I ended up in New York, and I was staying with a friend of mine who I'd gone to school with, and we were. She was nannying for one of a really, really influential family in the state, and the mother in that family took a shine to me. She said, we could take you down to Ford Models, and she said we could get you signed up there. And I went, oh no, no way, I can't. I just instantly, that stomach turning anxiety, that fear. She said we could just leave you pictures at the receptionist, and what I hadn't realized was that she probably she could pull strings. But anyway, no, I just did not have the confidence in me that I could make it, that I could do it. Right. And I remember my mum not being very supportive, or being fearful of what could happen to me in New York if it didn't work. And so I just decided no, and I went off to London and I was myself. So I think that was I regretted it. And that's a big lesson for me. And now instead of saying no to things and regretting it, I had the most incredible experience, But now I say yes to things, and sometimes I say yes to too many things. But I just don't want to miss out on potential amazing experiences.
And opportunities, I think that, and I think when you get into midlife, it becomes more prevalent, doesn't it? That you just, you don't want to miss out. And I think that's the important thing, isn't it? It's about, reflecting on what we've done, and that's all absolutely wonderful. But I think it becomes a point where, I say this a lot, where you sort of start thinking, well, hang on a minute, whether if you're a mum and your kids are grown up or, whatever, it's time to be a someone again, and not a someone's, And
I think for me, I've always had a feeling of a ticking clock in my life.
Yeah, I get that.
I've always had it. And, all right, you've got to go hell for leather, Bianca. Come on. And I had twins, and I was building a career, and it's not like I took any time off to sort of be a full-time mum. I was like, bang, driving up to Newcastle. There were 2 driving up to Newcastle, getting home at 7 p.m., falling asleep on the sofa in my clothes. getting up and leaving at 6:15 the next day. And it felt like I couldn't slow down. And I think what happened then is, eventually that does catch up with you and you go 100 down to the brick wall, don't you? But I've always had that feeling of ticking clock, and now I've been through a massive health scare, and like a cancer survivor. That's even louder.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I think it makes you even more determined, doesn't it, to try and wring every little drop out of life. But I suppose we've also kind of got to be sensible about that, so that we understand what it is that's really driving us, and making sure that drive is healthy. Because sometimes for some people that drive isn't necessarily a healthy drive. It's I've known people who've been driven thinking that money was the answer, and they've got to the end of into their late 50s, and they've been pushing for money all the time, thinking that it was money, and they got to the end of that journey and they had all that money in the bank, but then they realized it wasn't the money, and they've missed the journey. So it's about it's about understanding what drives you. What would you say drives you? What is it that pushes you?
Well, it's funny you introduced this thing about money, because money can't buy you a sense of personal fulfillment. Full stop. And it doesn't matter how big your salary is, so it depends on your personal values. And some people's personal values, like you say, are to make money and be in that world and have money. But I think it's a bit empty. I think that you do trade personal fulfillment for that other feeling of, okay, I've got material wealth. So for me, I actually am driven by personal fulfillment. And I remember being in my company that I was growing in Middlesbrough. We were in a building called Boho One, which is a shared office space. And I was in the office in the cafe with a chap called Andy Preston, who is actually the chairman of the CEO Sleep Out, and he's now the elected mayor of Middlesbrough. Yeah. And we were chatting, and he goes, "Well, how's business going?" And I said, "Well, it's great, but I'm starting to feel like it's not kind of ticking my personal boxes." So you go out, you win the business, you put it through the sausage factory, you go and chase the invoice, you go out and win more business, and you do it, wake up and do it all again, rinse and repeat. And I wanted something that I felt like was making a difference. But he, at the time, was like, "Oh, right. And it felt like it went straight over his head. And then 4 years later, I got a phone call, and I was sitting in my friend Jules's house. We were having eggs on toast for lunch. I got a phone call. And he said, "Right, I've got something I think you might enjoy." And it was help with CEO Sleep Out. So I didn't start the CEO Sleep Out, but I came into it to support its growth. And within about a year, it was me doing it, and it was me running it. So it was exactly the right type of thing that I needed to fulfill those.
And what a thing! I mean, what a charity! What a network that you've created. That rolls on fabulously to my next question, because I wanted you to share with us all this wonderful charity, this wonderful work that you're doing. For anyone who hasn't heard or doesn't know about CEO Sleep Out, would you just share with them, with the listeners, what it is?
Yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful charity. We're like an umbrella charity, a grant giver, but we raise our money from business people by inviting them to spend a night out under the stars, have this unforgettable experience where they meet people who've overcome homelessness. They hear from charities what they're doing on the front line of homelessness and poverty in their city. We raise big money. We challenge them to raise or donate a minimum of $1,000 each, and that's $2,000. In each. So we raise the big money, and that gets ploughed straight back into local charities. So less than 10 days away is CEO Sleep Out Newcastle at St James's. And I've got 80 odd people signed up. We'll raise big money. We'll donate that out to Walking with the Wounded, the Newcastle United Foundation, People's Kitchen, the West End Food Bank. And it's going to change some people's lives, or at least alleviate some of the pressure that people facing, that level of dread when it comes to where am I going to sleep, or that how am I going to pay my bills, even families that can't really put enough food on the table, all of that. stuff that's going on right now. We do that around the country. And I'm building this national brand, and it is now recognized, wherever I go, and it opens doors.
Yeah.
But it's still the case where it's like Wizard of Oz. If you pull back the little green curtain,
yes,
it's just kind of me full-time. I'm the only full-time paid member of staff. I do have support in London 2 days a week, and I do have some admin support, and I've got an army of volunteers helping me make this happen. But the ethos when it was set up was that it would be this very lean charity and not a big machine where the CEO gets paid, heaps of money and all of this stuff. We are going to start to gingerly take steps to grow it and add to a team, and I'm going to create a kind of a mini-me and stuff like that. So we do hope to expand and grow and do more. And there's also an ambition behind it that actually, as a body with funds, one of my pet projects is I would like it to support arts projects, because I think arts can tell the stories and pack an emotional punch where facts and figures just go over people's head. Art projects, campaigns, invest in social enterprises that are actually strengthening the fabric of society. So I've got this golden goose egg of a network now that I've built across the UK, who all have an inkling of some of the inequalities that we're facing in society. And they've all been challenged to play a part in to step into their power in terms of being part of the solution. So what's next for them? So my big talking point and my passion project is this idea about leaders with purpose. So it's about the social value piece. And I say to business leaders that you've got a power, you've got a massive opportunity, and I would argue that you have a responsibility now. Ain't nobody else going to do it but you. Possibly aren't making policies that actually are helping us become a strong and healthy society. So business has this power. It's a voice collectively that policymakers do listen to. But if you were to add up all the SMEs and enterprise level businesses, it's more than the PLC. The power there is a power base that's bigger than the PLCs. So get behind this idea of creating real, measurable social value. And that's in the small things, the big things, whatever your resource allows, do it, whether that means pay a living wage or whether it means make sure you offer apprenticeships to people from hard to reach groups. Or, any of a million things that you could do. Get involved in local causes, be philanthropic. So many things that a business can do. But it's about starting to think about and bake it into your policies and procedures and actions to start moving that dial.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, it's got to be done from the ground, hasn't it? And the work that you're doing, I mean, goodness gracious, it's absolutely phenomenal. And to see how, you've raised over 3 million. Yeah,
not personally me.
but you've championed this. You've banged the drum. You've driven this project, and I know because I've met you, and I know how passionate you are about this, and how it's driven by purpose. And it's phenomenal. It must be incredibly rewarding. I'm sure challenging. What would you say is the most rewarding part of your role or the job or the role that CEO Sleep Out plays?
Well, firstly, it's actually making sure the money gets to where it's needed. That's I absolutely love sending out the money and going and handing over the checks. Sometimes we do it in person, and just that's an amazing feeling, and seeing what the charities are doing with those funds. But actually, what I really love, but it's also a depleting part of the role, is actually the sleeping out and meeting the participants and passing on that message to them, because there's an energy at a CEO Sleep Out event that I can't describe. As you might sign up and think, oh, what the hell have I done? What have I got myself in for? And as the night grows closer, you think, well, can I wriggle out? Can I exit left? Can I sort of send Bianca my apologies and not turn up? And then you get there, and it actually is a really, really vibrant, there's an energy. Everybody's there to do something awesome. It does crack open that level of compassion and understanding. I love being part of that. And I'll just roll out my roll mat. I wake up in the morning, and again, there's that feeling that they've done something really special. And it's not like they've trained for 5 months to run a marathon or something, but they still have that that amazing feeling of doing
Yes.
something for a higher purpose.
Mm.
And I love that aspect of it. But saying that that's an aspect of it that I need to start dialing down for me, because, again, it's about putting a buffer around my own well-being. And it does keep me physically to go and do, for example, a run of 8 sleep outs.
I'm sure.
Over an 8-week period or even over a 6-week period. So that's figure out ways to have ambassadors take my place on the night. But yeah, it's an amazing part of the job, and then the rest of it is getting that message out there, and it's a hustle.
Yeah, it is a hustle. I mean, what are the, just for anybody listening who's not quite sure, what sort of things, I mean, you've mentioned about these, you know, where the money's distributed, but can you sort of share with us some of the, you know, like where the money's gone and some real success stories on the back of the money? I'm sure there must be many.
There's loads of case studies, and I've just because the funds that come through as unrestricted funds to charity, they're not obliged to hold any outcomes against them, but they do send us case studies, and I do ask them for statements about how that money's helped them do what they do. So, for example, in London, there's 13 charities that receive funds. One of the charities was brought to our attention by a fundraiser called Henrik Mueller, and he's the managing director at Fleming's Mayfair. Fleming's Mayfair is the swankiest hotel. It's the top notch. People, you know, really serious people come and stay there. So he's around the corner from incredible inequality and homelessness and destitution. And so he thought, well, I need to bridge this gap between the ultra rich, the ultra wealth, and this level of absolute destitution and deprivation that I'm seeing on my doorstep. So how do you marry that up? So he got involved in an amazing charity called Charity Begins at Home.
Right.
Delivering, just before COVID, they started delivering, or in COVID, hot meals to people who needed them. And that could be someone sleeping rough, or it could be a family that was really struggling. And the meals are made in the Fleming's commercial kitchen. So he's providing the food, and he's providing the mechanism to make the meals, and then the volunteers went out and delivered the meals in Charing Cross. And that is 250 meals a week go out now.
Isn't that brilliant? I mean, that's life-saving, isn't it?
Yeah, so we wrote them a cheque for £25,000 this year, but they're one of 13 that we funded. So Walking with the Wounded works with us across the country in various parts of the UK, and they are ex-service people, so they're supporting those who served. Amazing charity. They do so much, and they do many different things for people, from mental health to housing. I'm sure they've got a touch point, you know, when they're back on Civvy Street and things might not be going particularly well for them. But they do deserve our support, and so
absolutely
love to fund Walking with the Wounded. There's an organisation called Only a Pavement Away, which is bringing homeless people through a training program into working in hospitality. So we're working with them in London and in Manchester.
Yes.
I don't know if you've heard the Billy Chip.
No, I haven't heard that.
No idea. So it's a chip. It's literally like a roulette chip. But it's like, and they've signed up with people like Greg's to say somebody can buy a coin from Greg's, a Billy Chip, give it to somebody who's rough sleeping, and that rough sleeper can redeem it for whatever they want in Greg's.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so I give agency to the rough sleepers. We're all about every person who's homeless is an individual with hopes, dreams, talents, backstory, you know, and just has deserving of care and love, and actually not to be patronised.
No, exactly.
You know, and so as soon as you give somebody agency, well, instead of saying here's a sloppy, you know, cold cup of tea or whatever, go and get yourself something, mate. Go and treat yourself.
Treat them with respect. Treat these people with respect. They deserve respect.
Well, what they've been through, what they've overcome, really does sometimes deserve respect. And we have an amazing lived experience ambassador called Kerry Douglas, who will be speaking. She's just confirmed that she's ready to speak again in Newcastle and Middlesbrough after going through a really, really tough time in her personal life as well.
Right.
She had 11 years living on the streets of London from age 13 to age 24. Newcastle girl, born and bred, but life was not kind to her in terms of her family life. And by 13, she was living on the streets because that's where she found her family. They're the people who cared for her, and they're the people who made sense to her and made her feel like she was somebody. And, that's 11 years entrenched.
From 13 years of age. 13, when you think of your children at 13, to be living on the street. Goodness gracious.
Her story is unbelievable. She is the most resilient person I know. And she has been through an incredibly tough, another round of quite a very traumatic year.
Yeah.
But she does kind of pop out the other side because she thinks, well, I've overcome so much, I can get through this as well. And it's exactly what we were saying. Yeah. Kerry's what she's overcome is on a totally different level.
Yes.
So and it's all made her who she is, and she shares that experience with a great deal of honesty and vulnerability for people to kind of, it just unlocks that compassion and understanding that people don't have around rough sleepers. Traditionally, a rough sleeper is judged. You're on drugs, mate. Get yourself sorted. Not my problem.
Yes.
We'll change that.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely, it's honestly, it's the most wonderful charity. What are the challenges? So for anyone listening here who wants to get involved, where you really need support, what challenges are you facing at the moment? What do you really need support and help with?
To do more events in more cities across the UK. So I basically need to stretch myself or hire the person that can do what I do and go and get venues on board and get partner charities on board. There's a number of stakeholders involved in bringing something like this to life. It'll be a venue that wants to donate its space to us. Yeah. Charity partners that will help us go and spread the word, because of course I can't do it all myself. So we do rely on charity partners to talk to their corporate database as well. And it's building steering kind of groups and business communities that in each town that want to sort of champion it on our behalf.
Yes.
So we're working on all of that ambassador, building ambassadors at the moment, and how we're going to build the team to be able to fulfill those ambitions. We can't ask for big grants like some charities can, because we are a grant giver. We don't produce outcomes that we can measure in terms of directly frontline stuff. But we facilitate and enable other people better than we could to do what they do best, and that's what we do. So we just wanted to be able to do more of it, so that I've got these funds where people can apply for money to them and to help us change the face, I guess, and change businesses' understanding of what the issues are, so that they feel obligated or feel excited about this whole idea of returning that social value and creating social impact. I said to you before, Sarah, there's an opportunity as well. And I do think that, we've got big drivers in play here for businesses to do that. I think that when you're in SME, you're flying by the seat of your pants a bit. And, we've all been there, rolled our sleeves up and done 10 jobs and, all the stuff. But you know what? Once you think, okay, well, part of my core pillars in my business is going to be creating social value.
Yes.
It becomes a bit easy, and you think, okay, well, I'm going to build this in, and you just bake it in. And I think, with 20% of the market being Gen Z or younger, they are making decisions based on whether you've got your ducks in a row and you're doing the right things, sustainability-wise and socially-wise.
Yes, definitely. What would you? Because I don't want to lose this thread, because it's important. If a business is out there and they're thinking, gosh, this is. They feel it's really important to them. They want to contribute. They wanted to support you. What would you say? You've touched on it a little bit at the beginning of the conversation of what you can do as a business owner to sort of deliver social impact and be responsible. But if we can dig a little bit deeper into that, what can these businesses do? So they're sat here saying, right, okay, we want to help. We want to support you. What sort of things, as a business owner, do you want me to do for you to deliver this social impact?
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's two sides to it. There's for seriously, but specifically, I'd say come and be a corporate partner with us. Yeah. Sponsor an event or arrange a regional, series of events. Let us have, that resource in terms of funding so that we can do what we do better. But if you're in a business and you're thinking, okay, well, there's big things and small things, and how do I make the social impact? You've got to look at your stakeholders. You've got to look at how you're returning value to your stakeholders. And I would say start with we know your shareholders and stakeholders. We know your suppliers and stakeholders. Start with your workforce. The workforce first, the families of the workforce and the communities. Think about what value they're receiving. So you're looking after your workforce. Are you making sure that the workers with families, their kids have enough to get into school? There are so many, there's such a low, it's this in-work poverty we're seeing so much more of. And I think that the responsibility employers have to think is, are my low-paid employees actually surviving? Can we then offer some training about budgeting? Can we offer credit union to help them save for Christmas? Can we offer help nutrition? We offer all these things. Where's your resource? Where's your spare time? Where's your knowledge base? How can we deliver something to actually improve a situation? So you map it all out. Where's the gaps? Where's the problems? What have we got as a resource? Map onto that what you can do. What's happening in the community? Because remember, a business is a steward. You're a steward of your patch. So what's happening in your what are the big problems in your immediate community that you could be getting involved with and helping form a solution for? And then there's the more philanthropic stuff like giving money, identifying causes, building and volunteering days, staff. Now we're seeing staff that have at least 2 volunteering days a year that aren't holiday, that are fully paid, and they can pick something that they want to go off to and do some volunteering. That's brilliant. And then there's all the structural stuff. So your policies, your procedures, your actions, and the metrics that matter, how you're going to measure what you're doing. That's really, really important. But of course, it's going to cost each business because it is based on what's happening out there, what's happening on your doorstep, what's happening in your communities, what's happening within your workforce, how are your stakeholders being valued, and then where are your resources? Where can you make a difference? Start with one thing.
Yeah, even one small thing, and then and just get the ball rolling. And get the momentum started, isn't it, really?
Absolutely. And I often say it stems from the values of the leader, bake the values of the culture, and you will attract staff, you will attract customers based on what you're doing on that front. If you're able to communicate it through your messaging, boom, you've kind of it's a winning combo.
Yeah. And I think that's what you said there. The word is values, isn't it? It's of values.
Yes. Yeah. Values come through the leader. There is a character that will come through the workforce of its own, but quite often you find that they've been attracted to that opportunity because the values align with the leader.
Yeah, exactly. And they resonate with those values. That's why as you say, it's like a magnet that's attracted them to that in the first place, isn't it?
Well, your vibe attracts your tribe. Your vibe attracts your tribe, and I think that it really does. I do believe it stems from the leader of a business, and that's why we specifically to business leaders, because they're where that's where the difference is made, and then their values you through the levels of the organization, through the culture, through the procedures, through the policies, through how they do business, and I think. We are seeing the way business does business is changing. The fast-moving train, I think, has already left the station, and those who don't get on it are going to lose out on the bottom line anyway. So now talk about people, planet, and profit. Yeah, exactly. And I'll just say one more thing, because I know I just sort of get carried away and talk. No, it's what I'm here for. We do say to business leaders, profit is not a dirty word. You absolutely should be proud of the profit you're making, proud of the fact that you are reaping a reward for the blood, sweat, and tears you put into building this business. I say it's about the definition of success. If it's just around returning that profit, is it on the back of low-paid workforce, or exactly the kids of people working for you going hungry, or all that stuff? You've got to redefine it and say, okay, triple bottom line. That's success. And exactly, and that's the whole thing is it's about getting the best out of your people. It's in your best interests. So you want to support them. You want a happy
comfortable, confident, safe feeling workforce, because those people are going to give you everything anyway. So it's, don't strip them and make them suffer and strive. Champion them, nurture them, and support them. And by nature, they're gonna lift. They're gonna lift you. If you can lift and support them.
Yeah, you're not dragging them towards a goal. They're coming with you, and because you've earned that trust.
That's it.
You're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a purpose-driven idea, and I think that is how to win over a workforce. If they're all heading towards this ideal, this higher ideal, that's like it. So that's all of what we talk about, Sarah. And I've seen businesses really change as a result. People email me and say, "Gosh, we've changed a policy here. We've joined the Living Wage Foundation here, or whatever." So we're chipping away at it.
Yeah. No, fantastic. Value people. It's about shared values and people feeling valued and respected, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's what people want. So there'll be people who are listening to this podcast who may be facing adversity of their own. They could be feeling stuck, lost, lonely, a lot of loneliness at the moment. In terms of adversity in your life, would you be willing to share any adversity that maybe you faced and what you did to overcome it? Have you ever faced adversity?
I have. I've faced adversity, I think, a couple of times in my life. Like you, I've had that diagnosis twice. And that is a real punch to the stomach. And you think, whoa. But many, many positives came. It's an ill wind that doesn't blow some good. And I'm a lucky one, so I get to stand here and, with all my hair and everything and tell you about it. And I know it's not the same for everyone. I've got friends going through horrendous treatments at the moment and really heart-wrenching stuff.
Yeah.
But what I learned was that I can rely, there are people who care about me that I can rely on when I need them. Yeah. I'm not reaching out, but if I ever did need them, I know that they would be there for me. So that's an amazing thing to know, that I've built and I've earned enough trust and love and respect that people will be there for me. And overcoming them is, I think what I did mentally was I took myself all the way down the road in my head, to get my head around it. And not everyone in their life has done that. Not everyone in their life has faced up to their own death.
No.
Faced it down and thought, okay, well, if that happens, then this is what's in place.
Yes.
But I have. And so I think it makes me a bit more philosophical about it and a bit more fearless about it. Yeah. God forbid it happens, but I went there.
Yes.
I went there. And actually, it was a really interesting exercise to say, have I lived the life I wanted to lead? Have I got more to do? Is everybody I care about going to be okay?
Exactly, yeah.
That stuff.
Yeah.
And I would say, if you haven't done a mental exercise on that, listen, it's hardcore, because we're not in a society where we talk about death, or we're taught to contemplate our own death, and we kind of lead ourselves to believe that we're utterly invincible. It's never going to happen.
It's going to be here forever. Yeah.
Huge shock when something comes along. But actually, probably the healthy way of doing it is to actually think, well, I am finite.
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to be finite so that new ideas can come through and we can evolve as a race.
That's
if I lived to 1,000, we wouldn't evolve, because I'm stuck in my ways. I'm stuck in my thinking, and I'm now old school. I'm a Generation X, and anyone younger than us hates us.
Yes. We're old and frumpy, and we're past our sell-by date.
Stuffed up the planet. Yeah. So we're meant to give way to a younger, fresher, generation, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Well, if we always do what we've always done, we're always going to get what we've always got. So we've got to have that fresh blood coming through, haven't we? And as you say, coming up.
Absolutely, but I'm not ready yet. That was
no, I'm not. I'm not ready to hand over the reins just yet. I think I've got a little bit more to do yet. And you're right. You know what you said there. It's about like you know, you and I have shared a similar journey with our cancer and so forth. And you're right. You know, it's looking at that through that sort of lens of, have I lived my life, you know, how I wanted to? Have I got out of it what I've wanted? Is what I'm doing today leading me on to that purposeful life that I want to live with passion and fuse, that's going to make me happy? And if it isn't, what the fucking hell am I doing? Why am I messing around? Because, you know, God forbid, when that day comes, I want to lie on my deathbed and go, well, I'm bloody glad I did. I don't want to be saying I wish I had. And yes, that'll mean that will have cocked up, I'm sure, many times in this sort of little, you know, twisty road of life. There will be things, but by God, you know, I worry for the people who think they've got to live this perfect life, because and this is what this social media has given me, this sort of laminated veneer of a life that tells you everything's got to be perfect. So people are too scared to live in case they cock up.
They wrap themselves up in cotton wool and put false walls and buy handbags and, you know, all the consumer stuff as well as part of that. It's to make so that dopamine hit to make you, you know, the real stuff's too. Anyway, but I think, you know, I can't remember if I've said this to you, Sarah, but I've always tell my kids, you know, like, if you wrap yourselves up in cotton wool, you're not going to grow. You're just not gonna. You've got to be brave, and you've got to be vulnerable.
Yes,
you've got to take risks in life, and you know, like I said before, life begins at the end of your comfort zone.
Yeah, it totally does. And that's a great place. As much as I could talk to you all day, I absolutely love chatting to you, Bianca. We'll have to bring this interview to a close. But before I do, I always ask my guests that if they could pay forward a piece of advice. So if there's somebody listening and they're wanting to embark on a journey of reinvention, they're saying, right, enough's enough. I've had enough of feeling like this. I want to put a stake in the ground and I'm going to make a difference. You know, I really do, but I don't know where to start. What do you say to them? What advice do you give them?
Well, the first thing I would do is figure out what you really stand for inside yourself, what's driven your decision making in the past, and what you really stand for. You've got to work that out. You've got to know thyself, don't you? Know what drives you, know what you stand for. And if you don't stand for anything, then you fall for it. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Yes.
But I think also the big thing from our chat today is really do something that makes you want to shit your pants.
Absolutely,
terrified of, and just try it and do it, because you will land. It's like every time I've had to step off a cliff edge and pray that my parachute is going to open, it has. Do something that terrifies you, and I promise you will land on your 2 feet one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the most wonderful, wonderful advice. So on that note, I need to thank you so much. Thank you to our listeners for listening to the Formidable Over 40 podcast. Thank you so much, Bianca, for this incredible interview, for joining us and sharing your mission. Please head to the show notes to find links to follow Bianca and get involved with the CE Sleep Out. Bianca, where can people find out about you and more about the CEO Sleep Out? What links could you share?
Yeah, ceosleepout.co.uk. All the cities we're running events are there on the homepage, so you can easily sign up and get involved. And you can find me on LinkedIn. That's my plan.
Yeah, fantastic. That's where you hang out. So follow the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes, and please do share the Formidable Over 40 with anyone you think will enjoy it or needs it. Please do like and subscribe. Thank you ever so much for joining us, Bianca. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I've loved it, Sarah. Thank you.